say. The Whittier Plant Commission meeting for Thursday, January 22nd, 2015 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary Pro Tem, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson is absent with prior notice. Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Rafato.
Here.
I'm Commissioner Stylen. I'm present. Commissioner Zangara.
Here.
It's 5 present, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy.
Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
We do have a change. The item that was listed as a consent agenda item has been removed from the consent agenda and will be heard as the first item for review.
Great, thank you. Number 5, citizen concerns and comments. At this time, it is for general concerns and comments not related to the dockets on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on any of those? Anything else? No, thank you. Items for review, docket number SCBA 15-2, Sure Staff, 278 McHenry Road, appearance approval for a wall sign. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. There was a request from a couple of commissioners to speak with the petitioner prior to the meeting regarding the proposed design for this sign. In response, the petitioner has submitted a revised sign, which you see here on the screen now. I believe there's someone present from the sign company.
If you can come up to the podium.
And what we would do is, if the commission is satisfied with this sign, we would switch out the verbiage in the motion.
So if you can just describe the sign that you're...
It is a channel letter sign with black lettering, white outline, and the other word is white faces with black trim cap with a raceway behind it. It's an LED illuminated sign. Other than that.
Okay, we'll go to the commission members. Commissioner Stylen?
No comments.
Commissioner Dorban?
I do have a question about, is this the corporate logo?
It is not. They have a logo that is quite a bit more extensive and quite a bit more expensive to make.
Okay, it's the one that I went online and saw that there are all the other Sure Staffs, am I correct? It is.
Possibly, I'm not sure which one.
Okay, I guess what
I do have a card I could show you.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
I don't know if everyone can see this, but in making this into a sign, it would take quite a bit more steps. A sign, is that what you're
Yeah, I don't know, does anybody else want to see this?
passing up?
Yeah, I think I want to see that.
I need it back because I need that number.
Well, I guess I would like to see this sign look more like what the corporate logo is or whatever you have on your card, and that's what we've asked for in the past from other petitioners, so this is not, we're not just asking it, or I'm not just asking this of you. So I would like to see a more creative sign and something more like what you have on your card and what is your logo.
Okay. That is the same colors as that logo, black and white. I'll have to go to the customer and see if they're willing to spend quite a bit more.
I mean, if you look at the signs on either place of where this sign would like to go, you see that they're much more creative. And
I agree, and I also have pictures, and I don't know if this matters, of similar signs that are not as creative, but Again, I'm not spending the money, so I'm just,
That's my only comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
I kind of had the same comment. I'd kind of like to see this logoed sign.
Commissioner Zangara.
I have nothing.
What I find interesting is that you have the colors. Well, I guess they are the same lettering as the black lettering and the white lettering, but what you don't have is the outline. And I don't know how we could do that because that would look like a canned sign.
it would also shrink the letters in order to get within the 20 square feet. I'll admit, it looks nice, there's no question. But it would look smaller. It would have to be smaller.
I guess well, we have some differences on the sign. Do we hear a motion to approve this? Okay. Do we have a motion to deny?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to continue at this time. What I would like to do is to look up Sure Staff, other locations, around the
Some
area.
locations, I'm sorry, they don't even have a sign. They're not always required to have a sign.
But there must be some Sure Staff locations that do have a sign,
Absolutely.
and I'd like to see what their signage looks like in comparison.
Okay.
We did, just to interject, we did do some research. We did visit a couple of locations trying to find a sign. We found one that was on a awning, that was a standardized awning for the industrial complex it was located in. We found one that was a vinyl banner that was a temporary banner that did display the logo, but we did not find a permanent backlit sign on the locations that we were able to see.
I think I did find one in the city, though, in Chicago. There was a canned sign with this logo, but I don't know if, how they would fit on this facade. That I don't know.
Yeah, we don't allow canned signs.
Yep.
Well, sir, you heard, I think we're going to have a motion to continue. And what we'd like to see is different types of signs, possibly a little bit more creative on the sign. So go back to the owner and see what they can do. So we can continue?
It's a motion to table in this case.
Okay, that's right. A motion to table. Do I hear a motion to table?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Steinle, second by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
I'm Commissioner Stahlen, and I vote yes to continue. Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorband?
Yes to continue.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
Chairman Raffato?
No.
That's
I'll make sure you got it.
4 yes, 1 no, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy.
So will you give petitioners some guidelines of what we're looking for? I think he understands what we're looking for.
I understand perfectly.
Okay, great.
Can I ask a question? How long will this process,
Our next meeting is February 12th.
so 3 more weeks?
From today, that would be the
today,
first.
yes.
That would be the first
Yep.
meeting available.
I'll be the first available.
Okay.
Thank you. Calling docket number 2015, hold on 1 second. We have to sign something?
Well, I was going to give him just a note.
Yep, that's fine. We'll hold on a second.
Is it? Okay.
Can I sign in red? Is that acceptable? Can I borrow your pen?
You know what, let's just table it.
Oh, okay.
Calling docket number 2015-1A, B and C and PC-15-2, Kraus Lane, Townhomes 214 and 327 Kraus Lane. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Docket 2015 is Luxus Homes Development LLC owner is seeking the following actions in order to facilitate the construction of an 8-unit townhome residential development at 214 and 327 Kraus Lane. Item 2015-1A is rezoning of the property from R2 single-family residential to R4 multifamily residential. And item 2015-1B is variation from Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code of the following chapters: Chapter 19-03, General Provisions, Section 19.030.090, Access Required, and Chapter 19-07, Residential Districts, Section 19.04.060F, Setbacks and Height Restrictions, Principal Building in Section 19.040.060G and associated sections. And item number 2015-1C, variation from Title 17 Planning, Zoning, Planning, Subdivision, and Developments of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 28, Minimum Requirements and General Design Sections, 17.28.110, cul-de-sacs.
Would you like to read the statement on variations?
Oh, sure. A zoning variation is intended to be a method of adjustment to equalize regulations where Title 19 of the Village of Wheeling zoning has created an unnecessary hardship. Variation is designed to allow affected property owners the same rights and privileges that others enjoy in the same zoning district. In order to be granted a variation, a petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing why their request meets the conditions of the village code, including but not limited to how the individual situation is unique or unusual. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request for variation meets the standards established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. This item, as noted in the staff report, is similar to a petition that this commission heard roughly 2 years ago. The petitioner is related to the previous petition, has been working to revise the plans to address some of the issues that were raised during that hearing. I will let the petitioner present in just a moment, but there were questions raised as to the quality of the fill on the east half of the site. There were questions raised as to the utility layout. So some of those things have taken some time. The application has also been revised to reduce the density of the development. With that, what I'd like to do is have the petitioner come forward and describe the project.
Great, thank you. The petitioners could come forward, please. Will you be the, sir, will you be the only one speaking tonight on this petition?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Great. Would you please give your name and business address to our secretary?
Yes, my name is Chris Vinogradsky. I'm an architect. Business address is 115 Oakwood Avenue in Des Plaines, Illinois. 6 WINOGRADZKI.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the owner, Andrew Jennings, Andrew Buddhis, and Luxus Home Development, I would like to ask you for the variance of those two properties at 214 and 327 Krause Lane. We're looking for rezoning from R2 to R4. And those two properties, they have a long history, ranging or starting since, I think, 1996. Someone was trying already to do the development, multifamily houses. Current owner started in 2009. There was originally 10 units. And there were several issues with the utility, with the engineering, with the fire department. Myself, I started about a year and a half ago, and once I started, I tried to find all the issues that we have, and one by one, address them. And after meeting with Andrew Jennings and Brooke Jones, I realized that there is some issues with the environment. I talked to the neighbors. I spent a few weeks, talking to the neighbors on the east side, to the neighbors on the north side. They didn't have a positive approach to this development. They rather will see the land vacant, or that the village will buy and do any kind of recreation park. But I got a lot of history of those two properties, going back 50 years. And one of the neighbors, showed me old pictures and talking about there was existing pond, and this pond was used for dumping all the debris and garbage, and his big concern was environment and contamination of the existing land. So what we first did, we hired a company, environmental company, to test this, to do the soil test borings and find out if there was any contamination. We did the phase 1, phase 2. The report we presented to the village, and both reports shows that we don't have any contamination. We are safe to do the excavation and to the develop. Another issue was engineering and utilities. The property it has an easement, which with a private road, which is serving basically another properties on the east side, 3 of them. And one of the issues was sewer and water line. We couldn't connect this, and the old drawings done by another engineer didn't resolve this issue. So we hired a new civil engineer, Bernie Bono, to help us with the project. And I spoke with going south, the Shadow Bend Association. I have several meetings with them, and finally we agreed that they will help us to connect the new sewer line and water line, main water line, to the lines that are on their properties. So the way we could save some cost of the development, because building 2 houses on those properties would be impossible because of the cost. So that saved us. We were able to create a new stormwater, and the existing road is 16 feet wide. It's a private road. We're proposing right now a completely new private road, 30 foot wide. The previous was 24, with the 70-foot cul-de-sac. I know that this is too small for the fire department requirements, but we have few meetings with the fire chief, and I think we got the shape that satisfy somehow him, that we'll be able to work this out and fire department shouldn't have big issues. This is what we have to resolve today. Based on conversation with the engineer and fire, we got to the point that we decided to reduce number of the unit from 10 to 8. And we created, instead of 3 buildings, 2 buildings, each of 4 units. Based on this approach, we will be able to create a separation with 2 buildings, which will satisfy the fire department, for their purpose. We're looking on the west side for the side variance, I think from 30 to 15 feet. But we are very well on the north side. Just maybe this is coincident, but if you're looking at the property, if we combine those 2 lots in the width, on the north side facing the Edgewood Road, there are 8 properties as well, single family, so this is like a mirror. I've got a very positive report from the staff, and I'm very pleased with this. I think we were able to resolve a lot of issues, all the engineering, fire, and we are pleased with the recommendation, especially, maybe eliminating the sidewalk where we have 6 parking stalls at the pound, moving them towards the street. The landscaping and the fence, there are minor issues that we're glad to answer all those questions. So what I would like to do is to the board is give us a grant the variance and have a positive approach. And me and Bernie Bono, the civil engineer, are ready for any questions that you have.
Would you like to describe your buildings?
Excuse me?
Would you like to describe the buildings?
There are layouts like we presented here, around 2,000 square feet. What we have in the buildings, we have mostly brick venue walls with some cedar siding, and at the bottom we have a stone. We have the materials that we presented. We have today our samples. We separate those 2 buildings with a little bit slightly different colors from the brick and from the with the roof shingles, But the trimming, the windows, everything would be much the same color, so there's the same approach. It's more traditional, the way that I saw, all around in the neighborhood. We have a huge development to the side, a lot of townhouses. Even far to the north, we have some strip development of townhouses. So I think it's matching the character of Wheeling.
Could you go on and describe the exterior, what you plan for the siding, and you said you have samples?
That's correct.
Please go through those.
Sure.
You might want to put them on the table. Yeah, I don't think we can, maybe just set them on the table and lift them up when you're ready to talk about them. Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Do public website. Yeah, we will.
Okay, this is the type of stone that we would like to use at the bottom.
Okay.
In the gray, there are 2 buildings. One, that's the color that we're suggesting. We use it, this type of gray. Another building is very similar, a little bit darker. The roof shingles facing this type and this type.
Brooke?
Thank you. The roof shingles matching this type of brick is with this one, and this type of brick is with this one. All the windows, all the trim, the gutters, everything will be in white. The cedar will be everything the same, which will be connect all those buildings as a cedar board. It's natural.
You mentioned you really don't have a landscape plan to go through. Well, I'm sure we'll have some questions for you as we go through this. So at this time, we have, I assume we have a list of citizens that want to speak about this somewhere underneath there. If you could please be seated, I think we have some.
Thank you.
Can I have Stephen Kraus? Can you come forward, please?
We're going to, the way we do this is you have 5 minutes to speak. And how many do we have, Andrew?
We have 4 signed up.
Okay, great. So you have 5 minutes to speak, and we're looking for comments, concerns about this. Try to stay away from redundancy if somebody said it before, because we've got a recording secretary. So if you could please raise your hand. Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
I do.
And if you could give your name to a secretary?
Mr. Kraus, could you pull the microphone up toward you?
Thank you.
I personally saw that guy out there trying to dig into that pond, and he wasn't doing too good a success, because what's under the ground, there's a lot of concrete they put on top of that. About 4 years after they buried that, I saw black coming out of the ground, liquid. If it's there now, I don't know. That was a very long time ago. And I think the road is just way too small for having this many people on there. Many a times I've had to sit on Milwaukee Avenue and wait for somebody to pull out so I could come in. And then so much as the pond, that pond goes 4 feet if it's raining for 2 or 3 days up. So, and, you know, you shorten that up, how much more water, you know, it just runs down that road right now. And with the fire department, I hope they're going to put, you know, the only way to put out the fire right now is by that pond, is the only water for those 3 houses down there. So there has to be fire hydrants put in. Which is, you know, I can't see fitting that many people down that little road.
Is that it? Thank you.
Mike Kraus?
Yes, I'm Mike Kraus.
Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
And if you can give your name, address to the secretary, please.
Yes, I've been on Kraus Lane for over 50 years, and that road that they want to use to get in and out of that property is not going to be big enough. I literally walk to and from work because I cannot get out. Also, another issue would be all the water coming from Milwaukee Avenue. There is no place for that road to rain to go except in that retention pond. They do have a storm sewer there, but it does not handle all that water. And when it does rain, that pond does go up about 4 feet. Without that retention pond, that water will be in all our houses. And then walking to and from work, when I filled in that retention pond, we did see barrels. I did walking to and from work, barrels, tires, bricks, and yes, when they remodeled Chevy Chase Country Club, asbestos was also dumped in there. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Matt Friedman.
Thanks.
Raise your hand. Do you swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
I do.
Okay, if you give your address.
Thanks. My name is Matt Friedman. I'm an attorney. I represent the ownership group of the 325 North Milwaukee building. That's the office building to the west of this site. I just wanted to, just two things. I wanted to first mention some of the items that were concerns of the village last time around, a couple years ago, that weren't mentioned tonight, and then also talk about a concern that, that the ownership group of the office building has. Some items that were raised by the village last time around, some concerns. In addition to this contamination, one issue that came up was that there wouldn't be adequate place to plow the snow when we have a big snowfall. There just isn't going to be enough room. Somebody else in the village said, too many townhomes on too little land. These are notes that I have from the last meeting. Not enough homeowners to share in the cost of maintaining the private road. And of course, the private road that exists right now wasn't built to current village standards. And so assuming the private road were brought to current village standards, those costs would be even more significant. And that comment was made when there were more townhomes proposed. And so if the cost per townhome was too great then, it's going to be even greater now because there's fewer townhomes to spread that cost around. Another concern, this seemed to be a significant one, was that there wouldn't be a good way for residents to get onto Milwaukee Avenue. Somebody from the village mentioned that they'd like to see 3 lanes at Milwaukee Avenue, a lane to turn right onto Milwaukee, a lane to turn left, and then a 3rd lane for traffic entering onto the property. And there just isn't enough width, the road's too narrow, and folks from the village were concerned it'd be too difficult for residents to navigate. The last item, and I think it was the fire department that raised this at the last meeting, is that there wouldn't be the right number of hydrants in the right location. They couldn't find a way to fit that in, given the design. Perhaps over the past couple years, that's been addressed, but I don't know. But it was a concern then. I would imagine that it's a concern now. The current private road, as you probably know, isn't wide enough. It doesn't have proper drainage. And so one way or another, if some development goes there, the road's going to have to be changed. It's going to have drainage. It's going to have to be wider. Notwithstanding any of that, even if the village says, who cares about the fire hydrants? Even if the village says, who cares that there's no place to put the snow? Even if the village says, who cares about any of these issues? We're going to let these homes be built there. The biggest issue from our perspective is that there is no legal right for residents of townhomes on that site to traverse from Milwaukee Avenue across the portion of Cross Road adjacent to my client's building to access their property. There is an easement right for sewers, for sewer pipe. There's an easement right for utilities, but there is no ingress and egress right from Milwaukee Avenue across that portion of the road for multifamily homes, for townhomes. And I think that's a threshold issue. I think, you know, if I were the owners of that land, the first thing I'd do is come to the owners of this building and say, let's see if we can work out some sort of easement. I don't understand how the village, frankly, I think it'd be reckless for the village to allow townhomes to be built without knowing with certainty that residents that live there have legal access to and from the street, from their homes. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
Susan Barnes.
My name is Susan Barnes, and I live at 3...
If you could.
Yes, of
You
course.
swear the testimony you give tonight be the truth?
Yes, I do. I live at 321 Kraus. I'm not the homeowner, but the homeowner is in Arizona right now, so he couldn't be here. He's been alluded to already. He's the one who had the pictures, which I have with me.
If you could lower that microphone.
I could.
Thank you.
So you can see me?
No, so we can hear you too.
In any event, I was the tree lady last time. We talked about some things, and I was horrified that there were over 90 trees cut down. But in any event, what I didn't say then and what I would say now is I did walk on the property before the sign went up and pulled out some things that came from the ground when they had ripped up all the tree roots. The whole area was littered with debris, this being one of them. And we talked about who knows what was in there. And I'll say alleged, from the fire at Chevy Chase, things were dumped in there. Chevy Chase was built in the 1930s, so can you imagine the construction materials? So getting past that point, we can talk about that all day long. Let's see. No, we're not sure exactly what was in there, but there were lots of things. We don't know where the cores were actually dug. And Mike alluded to this as well. The core samples are maybe dug on the perimeter of the property, not in the center of the property, which would have given a different result. We're certain of that. Because there's stuff in there that probably we don't want to know about. I grew up in Northbrook, and there used to be a dump on Willow Road, and what they did was cover it up, and now it's a golf course. What has happened now with the treeless vacant land is that it's kind of been a dog park. And I understand that you want to make money, and I understand that we like to have homes and we like to do things in this town. But honestly, I can't imagine anybody would ever want to build anything on this property. I would never raise my grandchildren, where there is a potential for catastrophic soil. So it would make a great dog park. Maybe the village should consider that it would just be a dog park. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew, is there anyone else?
Not signed up, no.
No? Right. Is there, I know we had a sign-up sheet. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this matter that had not signed up? No? Okay, great. Thank you. We will now go to the commission. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Sir, if you could come up and respond to some of the concerns. I heard a number of things, the soil, the road, snow plowing.
Okay.
Number of things.
Yes, sir. I think what I've heard the biggest concern was the environmental, the contamination of the land. And as I mentioned in my previous speech, we hire independent company, an environmental company, to do the, soil test boring. We did the first phase. We checked. It was recommended by them to do the second phase, go deeper with the soil borings. Nothing was found. I don't know why the neighborhood has such a concern and why they're saying this. I mean, we did the results. We did the soil test borings. Nothing has been found, no contamination. So and this is scientific, so I don't know how to respond to this. Regarding to the driveway, yes, right now there's a small drive, which is 16-foot wide. We almost doubled the width of the drive. We're going to 30 feet right now. You know, to the neighbors to the east, we're really improving for their, egress and egress from their property. They have to go through the property. And I think in the winter there will be much easier to plow the road. We have a new surface, I think at the beginning maintenance free. Yes, the cost right now is spread over 6 properties, 6 owners. Once we build the 8 townhouses, we'll be spreading costs over 12. So, I think there will be easy, part, for everybody. In regards to the concern of the, passing through the enjoying property on the west side. Right now we have access, this is an easement to grant the access to those 2 properties plus those 3 properties. There's nothing in the easement stated that there's any restriction of number of the units over there that we'll build. And I went through this forth and back, and I couldn't find anything, legally stating that this is not possible to do it or it's restricted. Regarding the snow removal, we talked to the fire department engineering. We created a space on the end of the cul-de-sac road. There is a huge, right now, dry bottom detention area. We can easily plug in all the snow over there. We have plenty of room and easy access, which we didn't have this. Regarding the storm water that was concerned and the water is pumping to the pond, I'm not quite sure how this works, how the water from the road is going to the pond, but we're creating a new storm system. And we have an engineer who can answer all those questions, technical questions, but we put the sufficient, piping diameters that can handle a lot of water. So I think those are engineering requirements which we will meet, and we will serve this. I think getting rid of this pond, it's another, positive area for the neighborhood on the east side. Water is creating always, a lot of mosquitoes. Now we're getting rid of this, and I think having this dry detention, children will love it. We create a new, area for playground for in the summer, maybe in the winter. So I think we're improving the property. This lot is vacant for a good 20 or maybe 30 years, and we couldn't find any solution. And maybe today we can resolve this issue and find out a new owner, because right now the owner's on the paper. Nobody basically taking care about this. So having this new association, I think would be good for the entire neighborhood and good for the village.
Now we'll move to the commission. We'll start with Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Antor, I have your memo. It was in our packet, and I'd like, in the memo that we got, I'd like you to speak to any points that you think that this commission should talk about. One comment I see is we're talking about the carriage walk. We need to talk about that. I'm a little bit concerned about the radius on the cul-de-sac. Are you guys comfortable with that, or you still have issues with that? And what other things do you still have concerns about?
Well, the cul-de-sac was an item that was discussed between, I believe, the property representatives and the fire chief, and they have made some adjustments, some rolled curbs, so it's not actually the actual dimension of the bulb on the cul-de-sac. There is some more additional space to allow for maneuvering of vehicles. It is not probably as large as the village code requires, but again, this is a smaller development, limited number of units, and there's a compromise position reached on that where it would probably service the units that are going to be built. Some of the other items that have been resolved since the last meeting before this board is they have looped the water main system through Shadow Bend, so it is now serviced from 2 sources within the municipal water grid, which was a major issue last time for us. And then they've also added, I believe it's 1 hydrant, so that the hydrant spacing meets the village's requirements for hydrant spacing.
Where would that hydrant be placed on the subject property?
Pardon?
Where would that hydrant be placed on the subject property?
I believe, I can't quite see the drawing, but if I recall, they're on the south side of the street, I believe, coming down. And the first hydrant is roughly at the beginning of the townhouses to the west. There's one in the middle, and then at the far east end of the property.
Can you tell me how the 3 houses on the east side, are they serviced by the fire department?
Yes, they are.
And if there was an issue over there, currently what the situation is there, how would those be handled as far as if you needed water to put out a fire?
The only water to fight those would be tank water in the vehicles, and then relay lines and porta tanks would have to be used to go up to Milwaukee Avenue.
Okay. Anything else related to that, to your memo?
Not at this time. Most of the major issues we had were the water supply, the availability of the hydrants, and the cul-de-sac, and those have been addressed.
Okay. Mr. Tack, I have a couple questions about the retention area. The current retention area that's there now, with this new plan, are they keeping that retention area the same width, depth, and length or whatever? Are they deepening it, or is it staying the same? And where does the water that's going to be coming from those townhomes, will there be lines going into the retention area and then like a restrictor valve going out the, let's see what it'd be, the northeast side of that retention area going out towards the river? Or how does the stuff get into the retention area from the townhomes, or where does that run off water? Especially from the concern that was stated that potential water coming from Milwaukee Avenue would potentially drain in here, and now we're putting buildings in there. How is that drainage working, and are you guys happy with what has been presented to you?
I guess there's a lot of questions there, so I try to hit all of them.
Actually, Mr. Tack, before you start on that, I think some of that would probably be appropriate for the petitioner's engineer to start with, and then
that's true.
And then follow up with the questions for you.
Okay.
I would have done the same thing. So if you could raise your hand. You swear the testimony you give tonight to be the truth?
I do.
And if you give your name and business address to our recording secretary, that'd be great.
Bernie, B-E-R-N-I-E, Bono, B-O-N-O, Bono Consulting Civil Engineers, 1018 Bussey, Park Ridge, Illinois. Okay, well, as the fire chief said, we're proposing the looped water main and the 3 fire hydrants. So right now that it will improve the ability of the fire department to fight fires at those 3 homes at the end, because now there's a hydrant at the east end of the street. So that's definitely an advantage there. Stormwater, our firm has been dealing with the engineering department for almost the last year on this. And we are maintaining the entire volume of the pond that is there now. Our calculations show that this new development needs, I can't read the number, approximately 16,000 cubic feet of detention. And the existing pond held, I believe, 45,000 cubic feet of detention. So what we are doing is putting back the entire volume of the pond the 45,000, even though our development only needs the 16,000. So, but I know John has asked us to, in detailed design, to calculate the additional runoff coming from the property to the west, and to make sure that our pond is adequately sized to hold that. But considering that this site is about double the size of the part to the east, and we only need 16,000 for this site, we feel that the 45,000 will be adequate for the runoff from this site, and that includes the widened road and all the runoff from the property to the west.
So that retention area right now is sized appropriately? You won't be touching it in any way as far as making it bigger or anything, or deepening
Well,
it?
it's, we're transforming it and keeping the volume, but it's going to be different. Right now, it's kind of one pond off in one corner, and we are going to make it square, and so that and there's, to get the volume in there, we're putting retaining walls in, and we have wrought iron fencing around it so the kids don't tumble off the top edge down to the bottom. The pond is designed to be a dry bottom pond now, and it is designed to be 4 feet deep, so that if the water levels came up 4 feet, we would have enough volume for it. We are, in the detailed design, we're going to be looking at, some overflows if there's a way to get it to bypass the restrictor so that we can be more protective of the houses to the east. But the volume is we changed the shape of it, but we have that same amount. It's just a slightly different configuration that's more user-friendly. And we made it a dry bottom pond too. We'd like, 99% of the time, the pond will be dry. And we'd like to use that as kind of an amenity for the owners and the people in the houses next door, so they could use that, to kick a soccer ball around or throw a Frisbee or whatever. And we do have to work on the slope on it. I know that was one of John's concerns, was it a 1% minimum, John, or a 2% on the base?
Yeah, I think I asked you for 1% minimum,
A 1%.
2% wherever you can.
I think right now we are at a 0.5% minimum. So we'll have to play with that a little bit and maybe put some ridges in there or something like that. But I believe that we can work that out in the detailed design phase.
And then, will all the townhouses, will each unit have its own sump pit or whatever that'll drain into the retention area?
Well, no, they'll all drain to the storm sewer system on the street, which is going to have catch basins and a crown. And that's kind of what this drawing in front of you shows. It shows all the utilities on the site. All 8 units will have their own water services, all 8 units will have their own sanitary services, and all 8 units are going to have their own sump pumps. And those are all going to come into the storm sewer systems, and then the storm sewer system comes across the site and drains into the pond. And then the pond, it outlets and goes out the other side. So.
Okay, as far as the street is concerned, right now it's 24 feet and it's going to 30, is that what it is? Was it 16 to 30? I don't remember.
I'm not exactly sure. I have a cross-section of it, and I think I have a dimension of it on here. Uh, 21. The new road will be 30 feet wide.
Okay.
And the existing road, I believe, was, I want to say it was about 20 feet wide.
Okay.
Across our area, but it's not very well defined. It's kind of, it's deteriorating.
So is the intent with this development to tear that road completely out?
Across the frontage of these 2 lots, yes.
Okay.
And it's going to be a brand-new road built up to village standard.
But only, so only in front of those 2 parcels and nothing on either side, is that correct?
That's correct, sir, yes.
So we will have a 30-foot in the front there, but then you may have 2 16-foot strips or 20-foot strips on each side of it, is that right?
Well, on the west side, that would be correct. On the east side, it just kind of dovetails right into the frontage across those 3 single-family homes.
Okay. I got so much other stuff.
Keep going.
Let's see. I have not, I've heard what everybody had to say, and I have a real concern about I haven't heard the word association mentioned at all. I think I did hear it once, and I wanted to know, you're bringing 8 homes in, but there's the 3 existing homeowners. Are there going to be, is it just going to be an association for the 8 townhomes, or who shares in the cost of the private road and all of that? Are the 3 homeowners on their own, and it's the 8 townhome people? How is it all organized?
I'm going to defer back to Chris.
Oh, that's fine.
Chris again. No, the private road will be paid off by the owner, and later on, there will be association for all those 8 townhouses. The cost won't be not spread to the 3 townhouses, 3 single-family houses, not to the east, not to the west. Everything will be paid by the owner and later on by the association of those 8 townhouses.
So will there be a legal document drawn up with all the stipulations, because the road maintenance and I assume there's going to be landscaping and all of that's going to be like an additional cost that a potential buyer who's going to buy the townhome is going to need to know about. So will a document be made available at the time that these are going to be sold that says you now have these additional things to worry about?
That's correct. Basically what is right now, the servicing, the maintenance of this road, they are responsible for 6 properties, for 6 owners. It's spread over. Well, it doesn't work very well because nobody, it's willing to do anything. The neighbors on the east side looking for the neighbors on the west side, and somehow there's no maintenance. But I think once we build an association, we'll be able legally, using our attorneys, to legalize this and spread, certain portion that has to be paid.
Okay. When you actually did the soil borings, I've heard a lot of stories. I know it was said a couple years ago, and you said that, you stated that there was no issue. However, I'm still hearing stories about what was out there and potentially where that stuff was stored. When you hired somebody to do the actual borings, did any of the input of where stuff could potentially be stored, was that considered when they did the borings, or they just went in specific spots and said, yeah, it looks good?
No, when I started to talk to neighbors, and one the neighbor, I don't remember his name, the middle house on the east side, I think he's living over there since for the last 50 years, and he explained me the history and showing me the pictures even. So once we find the agency, the company who will do the environmental, I told to them, I told the issues that we have. Specifically that there was area that people have concerns, that there was a debris dumping, to this lake, to this pond, and we want to be on the safe side. And I mentioned to them, and they were specifically doing those soil test borings.
So is it right to say too that where you're putting the townhomes now, that was just dug out like the remainder, like that little retention area off on the east side, was that all empty at one time and this was all just filled in?
Well, I was told that there was put a lot of debris into the detention pond. Nothing was told to me, more to the west that there was something done. But we did the soil test boring on each side. We tried, I showed basically at the time there was 10 townhouses, so it was a little bit farther spread as right now. But there was our concern if we do an excavation, if we go with excavation and constructing those 10 townhouses at the time, do we have any issues? Do we have any environmental? Because if we will have, this will be resolving a lot of, there will be a lot of costs, dumping all the dirt and cleaning up, that will be killed to the project. So we want to be on the safe side.
Okay. The last thing I'll mention before, I'll have more I'm sure later on, but I still haven't heard any kind of a snow removal plan. I think I heard something about using the retention area, but looking at the site plan that we got, it looks like the southeast corner of there is that some kind of a step down going down into the retention area there?
On the southeast?
Yeah, where it looked like, almost like the cul-de-sac area. Is that some kind of a step-down area?
This is north part. Yeah, we created a space because we have a curb, and we created the access, the plug, they can plug the snow to the detention pond. We created a space over there, so we don't have any more curb.
Wow, do you actually think you're gonna, if we get a really good snow, you think you're gonna put all that stuff in there, huh? You think that's gonna work?
Well, we have a snow today too, and we don't have these issues. I mean,
And what about the railing? Where is the railing in here? Does it go all the way around the retention pond and even in front of the parking spaces that you have on this plan?
That's correct.
And I know you mentioned the cedar fence, so is the cedar fence go behind? Is the railing mounted on the landscape wall itself?
No, the cedar fence is going along west side property line, north and east. And I know that from the recommendation from the staff was to eventually remove the east part and have a nice, clear access from the neighbors to the east side to the new development.
Was that the comment about the bollards, Andrew? Is that what it was? In case the east side is it when the east railing went down that they wanted to put bollards in there? I didn't understand the bollards.
So the staff suggestion here was that the plan as proposed has a 6-foot privacy fence around the perimeter in addition to the decorative railing on top of the retaining wall. So the staff suggestion was to leave the west and north fences intact as proposed, but consider an alternate treatment for the east side. This east side having a solid 6-foot fence right at the, if you imagine, you can't see them on the plan, but the other homes here would be looking directly at the 6-foot privacy fence. So the suggestion was perhaps an alternate treatment might be more desirable in that location.
Okay. One other thing I wanted to bring up was, in the packet, there was a mention, and I don't know how this applies to this, but there was a mention about a project with the Forest Preserve District for a canoe landing and a walk in the, almost like the Des Plaines River path was included. Where does the canoe landing come in?
So that is not related to this project. It was I believe you're referring to one of the staff notes under the standards for rezoning with respect to the availability of open space. It's context. The purpose of that was to note that this area here is the subject of an agreement between the village and the Forest Preserve District to add a loop trail. There's an existing bridge here, and there's a footpath that runs along the west side of the river, and then the Des Plaines River Trail runs on the east side of the river. All of the purpose of that was just to note that there is a plan for open space improvements. The canoe launch would be part of this Forest Preserve project here. There would be a driveway into that off of Milwaukee Avenue, and this is fairly close to that.
And there's just maybe a general comment with a development like this that's defined as private. What services, if any, does the village offer to a development like this? I mean, I assume they don't. There's a lot of responsibility for the homeowners, but I know there's like no snow plowing or anything like that. But is there any like tree maintenance or any? Does the village provide any service to those owners at all?
I'm not sure if I understand the question. The utilities are going to be public. The stormwater system connects to the public. Sanitary connects to the public.
But I mean, if they had like a sewer problem or something like that, would they have to call like?
That's the village.
That's the village?
Well, the portion, Mr. Tack, this is probably a better question for you, actually.
Well, that portion of the sanitary system that would be considered a main would be the village's responsibility. All of the service connections, no different than a single-family residential development, would be the responsibility of that owner, of that unit's owner, probably.
Okay, I have nothing else for right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Dorbin.
Thank you. My first question, and I don't know who to address this to, probably to Andrew. I keep seeing two different spellings of Kraus, K-R-A-U-S and K-R-A-U-S-E. Which?
There's no E.
Is the project going to be K-R-A-U-S or is the project going to be K-R-A-U-S-E?
It's, the name of the street has no E on it. Half of our, there is no E on the street name.
Okay, so the project is going to not have the E on it, am I correct?
I don't believe the project actually has a name. It's not a
Because every time I look at it,
Right.
it's spelled a different way at some point, so I just wanted to
No, it's just,
clear that
it's a
up.
mistake.
One of my first questions is, you talked about a dry bottom area for that retention. In the past, we've had homeowners who have lived there many, many years, and they have brought in pictures of, there's a great deal of debris in that area. I don't know if the debris has been removed, but how do we make sure that it's cleaned out?
Well, that's a very good question. It would have to be excavated to the design grades, and then there's a covering on it of topsoil and lawn. So you would over-excavate it and get it down to a nice firm base, get it to the right grades, and then you would have a layer that, like you would have in your lawn, you know, you would have some thickness of topsoil that's 4 inches or 6 inches, and then grass seed or sod on top of that. And if there's some debris in there, if it's hazardous materials, that's obviously a problem. If it's something that's, you know, steel spikes or something like that. But if it's bricks or cinders or crushed concrete, there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, the entire city of Chicago is built on urban fill from debris from the Chicago fire. It's fairly standard in somewhat industrial sites to see a mixture of bricks and dirt and soil and various things. I mean, you don't want to see deleterious objects like garbage, wood with nails on it, scrap steel with sharp edges. But, you know, crushed concrete or bricks, there really nothing wrong with that as fill and a base of a thing, as long as there's not hazardous chemicals associated with it.
I've heard there's bigger items in there, and I just wondered, like, they said there was things like refrigerators in there and
Well,
things like
if
that.
any
So
were
I mean,
encountered while we were excavating, we would have to remove
Okay,
those.
that's one thing. And even though it's been tested, has the EPA been out there to test it as well?
I've learned about what I've heard today. My understanding is that they had an independent environmental consultant did,
But
you know,
shouldn't-
soil borings.
Shouldn't we have them come out? Shouldn't the EPA check this out too?
I'm not aware of any procedural EPA
I mean,
check. It has no confirmed.
I don't know, that's just a
Contamination.
thought. I mean, in the past, we've,
Yeah, typically, the EPA would come out if it's like a published site or a known site and there's been an incident that has been documented as a release, and then they would come out as part of the official cleanup. But to my knowledge, there has been no official release that has been documented.
I
There's
just
been no
don't know what's
leaking
under
underground
there,
tanks.
so
or
that's why I
something.
guess I'm asking.
Yeah.
And the other, one of the questions I had is, I'd like to go back and talk about this association because I have some real concerns about this because number one, you're going to put in a new street and the new street is, I assume, going to go all the way back to the 3 homes in the back as well? And then if you're going to have an association, shouldn't the 8 townhomes plus the 3 single-family homes share in a cost to make it equal? Because everybody's going to be using the street. And how do you work? And I guess one of my questions now is, who does the snow plowing now there? I do. Okay. So you do it all the way to Milwaukee Avenue? You plow all the way to?
No, the front office does their own, and then I have to do the rest.
Okay.
That's been going on for about 30 years now.
Okay, so it seems that if you're going to tell me that the association is going to just do snow plowing for those 8 townhomes, and then the single-family homes are on their own. I mean, I live in a townhome association, and I can see all kinds of issues here. There's 25 of us, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to have 3 homes in the back and trying to figure out who's going to pay for what and who's responsible for what. And I just see this as a real nightmare unless these people can all agree to share this cost. So and repairs, it's the same thing. The people who are living in this townhome association are going to say, wait a minute, people in the back are using my street and we're having to brunt the cost. And I can't imagine how you're going to legally figure this out without having everybody on the same page. It's kind of daunting to me to think how if you would already have these 8 homes and try to separate from the 3 houses, and you've already caused some, animosity between them. I don't know, how you plan to fix this or work with this?
Well, there won't be so very easy fix because this was done years ago. Someone subdivided this parcel the way that there's an easement on the south side of those 3 parcels, starting from Milwaukee and going through parcel of Cross 214 and 327. And the easement provides the ingress and egress to those 3 houses on the east side. I mean, legally, we cannot change this. Legally, it is stated that all owners of those 6 properties are responsible for the maintenance of the road. So right now there are 6. And it is issue because, as I hear, this gentleman is doing the work for the last 30 years. And I'm assuming this lot is vacant for the last 30 years. Once we build those additional 8 units, we can spread the cost. We can, maybe create with the neighbors. There is a legal stuff, which I'm not the attorney, but share the cost of the maintenance of the road.
Are you talking share the cost with 11, or are you saying share the cost?
I'm talking about the maintenance only. I'm talking about the snow removal. I'm talking about any issues with the driveway. But the road will be built, will be completely new construction by the association, those 8 townhouses.
Okay, but the street that you're saying is only going to be maintained by those 8 homeowners. But the homeowners that live in the back are going to utilize that same street.
No, they have to participate in the cost of the maintenance.
How are you going to?
Well, right now this is the same story like we have right now. There's nothing will change.
But there are no other homeowners there, so the folks that live back there are doing all the work. And my question is, how are you going to arrange for them to all share in that cost? I mean, because you've.
Well, legally, they don't do anything right now except they plugging the snow. There's no maintenance right now.
But there will be. And if the street is finished, there will be repairs, and repairs are not cheap. So the people that live in the townhouses are going to say that these folks who live back there are.
They are using the road and they have to be responsible.
Right. So
correct.
how are you going to fix that?
Well, I will leave this to the attorneys how to fix this. I mean.
Well,
I mean, we have right now almost similar condition. I mean, those people on the east side, they are responsible to, for maintenance of this road like it is right now. There's no change.
But there's no maintenance on it. Nothing is being done.
It is maintenance, but it's not done.
Right, it's not done. So
yes.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm a little concerned about going forward and looking at the big picture of going further in this to the future. And that concerns me a lot, because I know what it costs to maintain my subdivision. I know what it costs to do seal coating. I know what it costs to do infrared on it. I know what it costs. These are not cheap items. little sections of a road can be $6,000. I mean, these are expenses, so I just, that's, okay, I'm not going to continue on it, I just have some real concern about it. The environmental report that, Andrew, you said you have on file now,
Yes,
can we see that?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's part of the application submittal.
The landscape plan, will we see a new landscape plan for this?
The staff report notes a couple of issues on the landscape plan. I assume you've seen the staff report.
Yes.
So the staff report notes a couple of issues. There's a discrepancy between some of the existing trees and the existing tree list. There may be a need to remove some of the trees that are identified as ash. We don't know the quality of them. There is a use, almost exclusive use of a silver maple, which is on a list of trees that is not recommended for new planting with the village due to its issues thriving in our soil conditions here. So there are a couple of issues with the landscape plan, but essentially swapping out the shade tree species with a new species or several new species of shade trees would resolve the primary issue, and then cleaning up the existing tree count. And then also there's a incomplete note as to what areas of the site would be irrigated. It's left blank. That should be filled in as well. So there are a few issues on the landscape plan, but most of them are resolvable.
But we will see a new one?
Yes, our suggestion would be to actually continue the docket until you have a new landscape plan. You have a docket, actually, the PC 15-2 is a site plan and appearance for this development. So you have multiple dockets, one of which is the site plan and appearance of townhome development.
Okay. The other thing is there are a lot of trees on here that, as you said, are ash. Obviously, they have not been sprayed in the last 5 or 8 years, so they probably, their life expectancy is slim to none. And I know that from my own subdivision, and ours have been sprayed for the last 8 years, so they're healthy. But if they're not healthy, we're just asking for trouble. So I assume they're all going to be removed.
Once we got to the point where we realized that the existing tree list was not necessarily accurate, I don't know beyond that. We have no statement as to the quality of the trees or the number of the trees. We did determine that it wasn't accurate, and that what was on there certainly seemed to be a large number of ash trees. We suggest that they take another look at it.
Will our forester be looking at that list as well?
She has looked at the proposed landscape plan. The comment regarding the silver maples was a comment from the forester.
And the lighting, has that been corrected on our?
The lighting plan that you have is for a what I would consider to be a standard shoebox 30-foot mount light fixture. The light fixture that was submitted, I'm trying to go back to it. So the photometric study was completed for a different style of light. This particular style of light is a decorative light fixture that has a different photometric. So the light is thrown differently from this fixture. This particular fixture is typically mounted 14, 16-foot poles. Photometric plan lists 30-foot poles. So you'd have to reconcile that and have somebody double-check the photometrics.
Yes, if this will be required, we'll change. We decided to go with the lower light fixtures, not going over the roof of the houses, so it's more residential.
And you did mention the irrigation system, so that will be part of the landscape plan, am I correct?
Yes, irrigation is required. As it stands right now, the landscape plan that was submitted, the irrigation note is under the plant list and is blank.
And What about the HVAC? Where will those be located?
In the rear, you're talking about
Each on
compressors,
each
yes.
unit, where will that be?
Each unit will have at the rear separate compressor.
But where will it be located?
Close to the patio, we will close this with some bushes.
Yeah, I would like to see that noted on a plan going forward, so we specifically note it. And then I went back to, way back, I think to 2009, where I found some things, but in the January 12th, our regular meeting, there is a numerous lists of things that were referred to. In fact, it's 14 of those conditions. How can we make sure that those conditions that were talked about at that meeting are incorporated into this, because we basically are starting over?
Yes, this is a new docket, this is a new petition.
Right.
If there's a condition of approval that you would like to see addressed, this hearing is the appropriate time to mention.
Okay, there's like 14 of them, and do you want me to go through them? I can wait to the end to go through them, let everybody have a chance to talk. I'll let everybody else talk, and I can go back.
You know, you've got the floor. Go through.
Okay. Well, they talked about the zoning and the variations, which is obvious. Then they talked about the street lighting to meet the standards of Title 17. And the sanitary sewers, I assume we have kind of cleaned that all up.
Can we just kind of decide as we go through these points if they've been addressed or if they haven't been addressed?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Just so we all understand.
What do you want me to do? Just
Continue on, and then after each one, we
Just
can
start?
discuss it.
Okay. Number one was the site plan and appearance approval is subject to prior approval of the rezoning and variation petition as described in the docket, which was 2011-20A and B.
Well, that will be addressed with this new docket.
Okay. Well, you said you wanted to go through, so
Sure,
just
no,
just going through.
exactly.
That the petitioner confirm with the staff the proposed street light meets standard Title 17, planning, subdivision, and development.
The streetlights, the photometric plan, this is a new separate issue now from that, but the photometric plan would meet the standards of Title 17. There's a minimum standard for lighting in a roadway. This would meet that. It meets the standards for Title 19. The issue here is that the fixture, the decorative fixture and the photometric plan don't match. They would have to just redo the photometrics for the specific fixture.
Okay. That the proposed sanitary sewer shall be maintained and owned by the homeowners association.
That's, the design has been addressed. The end result, I think, is just restating what we would require of a development.
Number four, that the plat of subdivision as described in the engineering division memo stated January 5th, 2012, shall be submitted for review and approval prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy.
That would still need to be done.
I'm sorry?
They would still need to replat this. It's currently 2 lots. They would do, I assume, either fee simple or they would go with a condo-style townhome, one or the other. They would have to declare that and submit a plat.
Pam, would you mind, could we go back, the sanitary sewer owned and maintained by?
By the homeowners association.
Which is only these 8 people, correct? Do the other houses in the area make use of the either sanitary sewer or I heard reference to a storm sewer? Would anybody else use those facilities?
That particular condition of approval, I think, and I have to go back and check the notes on this to be 100% sure, that particular condition of approval was related to the fact that the design did not meet our staff's satisfaction. The design has been totally rehashed as their engineer had stated today. So the utility design, through the use of a new easement area, is now, and if I'm overstating this, Mr. Tack, please correct me, but the utility design now does meet our specifications.
And will it be used by the adjacent homeowners? I mean, was it designed for additional use?
Well, the sanitary system is 8-inch pipe, and we're talking about 8 units here. So we have more than enough capacity. That would never be an issue. I don't know who else would be connecting into it at some point in the future, except for possibly the 3 homeowners on the end. And I don't know if they have service right now, to be honest with you. Okay, so, oh, that's right, there is a line in the back there, isn't there? So I don't know who would want future use from this line.
Okay, thank you.
Number 5, that the petitioner supply the village with temporary construction easement agreement with Shadow Bend in order to construct the water main as shown or develop an alternate configuration that does not require such an agreement.
We do have an agreement on file now.
Okay.
Could I ask a question regarding that? Could you, on the site plan, can you show me where the actual easement is? I mean, I've seen the easement, the talk of it. Is it just on the entire south line, south property line where the fence is, Andrew? Yes.
You're saying, which easement are you referring to?
Well, like the utility easement and the
existing utility easement or the future?
I guess the future one.
The proposed utility easements, I believe this is the proposed. It's a little bit difficult for me to see. Mr. Tack, do you remember where they come in from? I am on 4.
Yeah, you see the line of text in the bottom underneath the roadway, you see all that text going down?
Yes.
And then if you go to the east side of the building right there, the easement is going to be coming through there to get to Shadow Bend system. And then if you go to the opposite end of where the subdivision starts, there's an easement that comes down through there too to connect to the sanitary system. So the east is the water and the west would be the septic.
Thank you.
Ready for me to go on? Yep. Number 6, that the downspout for the proposed homes be directly tied to the storm sewer.
That I don't know. Do you know how that has been designed thus far?
We didn't finalize, yes. I'm assuming that would be the proper approach.
That the
Can you-
parking, oops,
can-
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can we connect downspouts to storm
storm.
sewers?
I would recommend not connecting the downspouts. If there are sumps, we certainly could do that, but it would,
I didn't think we could do that anywhere in the village.
I didn't think so either. That's why I'm
Well-
reading this.
if we had a specific concern that there was a drainage issue and that the lots were tight, going through this process, we could certainly dictate something like that, I think.
Okay.
But I would be against it.
Okay.
There's a lot of people in Dunhurst that would sure like to connect their
A lot of people are
sump
going,
pumps to,
oh, okay, we can do that now. Oh, wait, I already do it. So, okay.
We'll follow the guidelines, yes.
Okay. Number 7, that parking shall be prohibited on Kraus Lane within the development.
I don't believe you have any.
There is no parking.
There is no issue. The issue with that, there were 2 issues with that. I think they've been resolved. The one side, parking was prohibited due to the fire hydrant location. The other side, there was not adequate space to fit vehicles in between. So I think that's been resolved by locating all of the guest parking in a single spot at the end. And the rest of the street would be parking restricted, correct? Is that
Correct.
Number 8, that the petitioner shall supply the village with an approved homeowner association declaration addressing snow removal, landscaping maintenance, and roadway maintenance prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, which also goes back to my concern of 8 over 11. So,
And that particular condition, I think in the staff report, we had noted that that would be appropriate to keep that one.
Number 9, that the soil boring review also include analysis for the presence of contamination.
That has been done. They did a phase 2.
That the brick color alternate from building to building rather than unit to unit as shown, which was previous.
Right, I think we have that one
We've
covered.
addressed that.
Right.
That the landscape plan include detail regarding irrigation system.
That we
Talked about
would
that.
need to be resolved.
That the fence shall be board-on-board cedar with steel posts.
It's a different fence, actually. The design is a different fence. There was a swale at the rear of the property. There was some concern about how the two things would work together. On the south side of the fence would effectively appear to be 8 feet tall on the old design. This is a completely different drainage plan. So I don't know. I believe you proposed a, it's actually on here. It's too small to read on this, but I can't tell if that's a wood or steel post looking at this right now, but it is a board-on-board fence, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember what the post was?
Burning it, the detail.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would like to have that. Yeah.
And I already talked about this. This number 13 is that the plans include AC unit location, which we talked about, that Joe bring that back. And the fourth one is that the water main be relocated to one side of the roadway to allow access during maintenance. And we have addressed that, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we have, yes.
And those, like I said, those were the ones that came from, January of 2012, and I just wanted to make sure they were.
Sounds like we have most of them addressed in this new petition, but, for instance, the fencing we need to get resolved, and if this is going to continue, that can get resolved in the next meeting.
The current board-on-board fence detail does show a 4x4 wood post. I don't know if there's a need for a steel post in the location, but this particular one does show in the detail a 4x4 wood post.
Great. I think we have addressed most, those 14. I'm sure more conditions will come up. Is there anything else, Commissioner Dorban?
No, I think I pretty much took up a lot of time. Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you for
That's why we're
humoring
here.
me.
That's why we're here. Commissioner Zangara.
Thank you. Good boy. My biggest concern, and maybe what I'd like to see, is regarding the street. I think the development itself, you're improving a lot of the issues with the debris and everything, but I have a concern with the street, and the reason I have a concern of new development, you're gonna put in a new street. What are these people gonna do when you're putting in a new street? How are they gonna get in and out if you're putting in a new street?
Well, we have right now 16-foot wide roadway, private road, we're going with 30 feet. So we split it in half, and I think that's 15 feet will be easy to serve.
Yeah, I'd like to see something like that, some kind of phase plan, so.
Well, there are details, I mean, it's.
I mean, and my other biggest concern is that you're gonna have, and this is really for the office complex, you're gonna have all these trucks, maintenance trucks, dump trucks, everything, using that portion of their drive that will probably get, I don't wanna say destroyed, but it's gonna get its wear and tear. I'd like to see something regarding that. I know it's a private drive, I don't know if there's something that can be put in with that regarding, when you go in to do finish coat, do you, does the,
Well,
you finish the top of that? I mean, it just seems like you're gonna be making a lot of inconvenience.
I think these issues will be addressed with the owner, from the office owner. We can address this. I mean, if everything will be damaged, that I think we can put with the writing, in writing, that the association will cover, or the owner of those 8 townhouses will cover the cost, and, I mean, this could be resolved. I mean, we have to put just maybe in
At the
writing.
time that the Commissioner Zangara is referring to, though, the association would not yet be in control of the property, so it would be the developer.
There will be the developer, yes, correct.
And I guess I have a question for the 3 homeowners. Do you guys get mail delivery back there, or do you gotta go P.O. box? Okay, okay. It's just a off-the-wall question I had. That's good.
Could I piggyback on that real quick? Are those the 3 mailboxes on the south side there? Can I ask the developer how are these townhomes going to be serviced? Where are there going to be mailboxes?
Honest with you, I didn't think about this right now.
Okay, just thought.
That's a good point.
Go ahead, Paul.
Where is it going here? Going back to the materials, on the drawings in our packet, they're showing some hardy board, and you showed us cedar. Are we going with the cedar, or is it gonna be hardy board?
Cedar? Change order, cedar.
Okay.
In your letter, it mentions hardy board.
It's on the plan.
And it's on the plan too, so that needs to be changed.
So the hardy board that's shown here, that's referenced on the plan, that detail would go to cedar?
We change it, did you change this? Because I have a hardy board siding.
Can you show us on that picture where you would be using that hardy board?
Let me.
Here, get the picture on the floor?
Well, can you bring it up, Andrew? or-
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
This area.
Is that hardy board or is that cedar?
I think it said hardy board, and then on the sides, it showed on the 2 sides.
It's okay.
Well, I would suggest to the owner to use the hardy board as a better material, so we have a wrong sample.
So instead of cedar,
We will use the hardy board siding.
What will the color of it be then?
I think it would be gray.
and thickness, so you need to get some more detail about what the hardy board is. We struggle with that. It's not one of our, on a list of,
Materials?
but, well, it is a accepted material depending upon where it is. So we'd probably like to see detail as to where that's going to be. You have it on here. Andrew, if you could point out where it would be, because I had a hard time.
It's limited to the gable end.
Well, the gable ends, I mean,
then there's,
there could be a cedar, or there could be a hardy board. I mean, cedar, I think the life expectancy of hardy board is much longer than cedar, but,
So, okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner Zangaro, just, you can go ahead.
No, he went
I-
to the next slide that showed it on the side also. Those windows, that's all hardy board too.
yes.
But is it to the ground?
It's showing it on the drawing it is.
It's the rear elevation, Paul?
These are the sides, each side elevation. And I guess one other question that I had was the patios in the back. Is there any kind of, I've seen it, I'm not gonna say I'm a fan or not a fan, but like a little fencing, like a privacy fence in between each patio or something for each individual to have privacy so you don't walk out and your neighbor's right next to you?
That's a good question. I mean, we didn't address at this point to put in a separate, fencing we could put this, and it could be a cedar fence.
Just a recommendation, because I know
Yeah.
if you sit outside and they're
That's a
not
good
that far
question, yeah.
apart, so it's a little privacy. Besides that, I think everyone else has hit some of my topics, so I'm not going to waste time going through them all again, but those were my biggest concerns right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Stylin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a couple really strange questions. Luckily enough with iPads, I can zoom in to things. And if you look at the north side of the retention pond, dry pond, especially on the east side, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 horizontal lines that go to the north. I presume that the two lines with little dots in them are probably the brick retaining wall, but I don't know what
slide are you
What
looking
page of the
at?
packet?
Page P1-A4,
In your,
which I think is the site plan.
on your iPad, which, what page?
What page?
31 of 51.
Thank you.
And just the northwest corner of the detention pond, if you zoom in, there's
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of lines that I would like to know what they are. I think the one with the little dots on them is the retention wall, but I don't know what the dots are.
They're off a fence.
That's where the wrought iron fence is going to be?
Correct.
Okay, and then there's another set of 4 lines above that. Do you know what those?
I mean, we have a retaining wall, we have in the middle a fence, then we have a cedar fence on the property line, and we have a property line, and I mean, there are several lines regarding the property lines, so.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get. And then further north of that are 2 more sets of lines, which I would think are maybe the neighbor's property line. But there appears to be a big distance between, I don't know where your property line is, so I can't tell the distance between
Whereas
the
basically,
neighbors.
where's the cedar fence? I mean, that's the thicker line. That's what is our property line on.
Well, on my iPad, all the lines are exactly the same, and if you scan over to the west side of the property lines, they get further and further apart. So it looks like you're either not on your property line or your neighbors to the north property line don't align with your property lines. And I just want to make sure when your fence goes in that we don't end up with a gap between their property line and your property line such that if they want to put a fence up or something, that we get this void in the middle. So do you know which one of these lines?
Sir, could I ask you which of the engineering sheets you're referring to? 51 didn't make any sense.
It's P1-A1.
Okay.
But this is architectural. I mean, we are going more to the engineering.
I think part of the confusion is that coming into the site, you said there's dashed lines from the north. I believe those are, I think that's what I understood you to say. Those are the individual property lines of those lots to the north.
Could I show you on my iPad?
Do you have,
Would that
Andrew, do
be?
you have this? Can you bring it up?
Andrew, can you zoom in at all? And let's just do the northwest corner, because those,
Northwest corner, all the way over here, okay?
Yeah, those lines are no longer parallel when you get to that.
I think it's 31. Yep.
These two diverging lines here, I think is what Commissioner Stein was
Yeah.
referring to.
Well, one of them is to the best of our knowledge, is a fence line. Oh, I see what you're saying. They're both marked as property lines. You know, sir, you raise a good point.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you. Right now, we have a plat of survey of our property, and then it's showing that there is like an apparent gap in there, but I'm sure that's not correct.
Yeah, I
So
just
they would
want to
have to
make,
get resolved, yeah.
I want to make sure that wherever your fence is, it's close enough that they might be able to connect up with, or I don't want to end up with a gap where things collect and nobody's responsible for it. So if we could somehow,
Well, if I could just piggyback on that, asking the neighbors to the north if instead of having two fences, taking down their fences.
that'd be fine too, but I think the
I'm
property
agreeing
lines
with you.
shouldn't be, I don't even know what the distance here.
Right.
The property lines shouldn't be a foot apart,
Exactly.
so.
Right, that needs to be defined a little bit better.
No,
And then
I
if-
agree, that's a good catch, I didn't notice that. I'm thinking it might just be a rotational error in the AutoCAD, that the lines from the north maybe are just off by about 2 degrees. That's why they seem to be divergent as you get further.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's not, I highly doubt that there's like a little unclaimed wedge
Exactly.
of property there, but that is what the drawings show right now. So, yeah, that's something we would definitely have to get cleared up, and I did not notice that until just now.
And then down, as soon as my iPad corrects, Andrew, if you would scroll down to the south property line, just south of parking spot number 1. If you zoom in down there appears to be something on that bottom line that comes up and crosses another line, and I don't know if that's your fence or a neighbor's fence, or I think that's where, I don't know what that is.
Talking about that little kink?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's
Again,
going
that
to,
was, I think it may have been how our surveyor connected the dots from the fence symbol, and it may need to get cleaned up a little bit also.
yeah, I assume that.
That's a fence line.
For the property to the south or your property?
No, I don't know who owns it, it's just, there's a fence there.
Okay.
And it's probably to the Townhouse Association, what is this?
Because it appears that you're,
About this. Yeah.
I don't-
Sometimes on AutoCAD, when you tilt a line,
yeah,
it changes the line type size, so it doesn't have the nice little dots and circles. By changing it, it makes it darker.
okay.
So that's something we would definitely have to clear up. It might have been something that just jogged around that tree. They went around the tree? That's probably what it was, yeah.
But then it appears that you guys might be doing something on their property, but I don't know there, so.
No, the bold line was what we were defining as our property line, just north of it, so.
And then this is the
Yeah.
curb line.
Right. Obviously, the intention is not to do any work on any of the neighbors' properties, so it would definitely have to get cleaned up a little bit. We're trying to satisfy what you guys want without spending 100% of the detailed design and architectural budget for a preliminary hearing. So we're just trying to give you some preliminary drawings, and actually, we're quite a bit more advanced than we would typically submit for a preliminary drawing. Usually, we would give you much more rudimentary drawings, but to get the stormwater issues worked out, we had to do a lot more of the detailed engineering. But there's definitely a lot more that has to be done. We're only, what we would say about maybe a 50% design submittal right now. So we have to clean up things and get them working.
Can you tell me roughly how deep the pond is going to be?
About 4 feet.
In every place except by the cul-de-sac, it'll probably slope in
Yeah,
a
I mean,
little bit easier.
it'll vary. In some parts, it'll only be 3.5 feet. We need to get some slope on there, and in the deep spots, it'll be, at the deeper end, it'll be about 4 feet deep. And we're trying to keep the walls under 3 feet high. I think their maximum height of the wall was 30 inches.
Above grade level?
Well, from the bottom of the pond.
Okay.
Then the wall would only be 30 inches high, about the height of this, this credenza here. And then from the bottom of that, it would slope down like another foot, like at a 4-to-1 slope to get to your bottom of your.
But the top of the wall will basically be at grade level, the fence will be at grass level on the one side?
I believe there's a detail on one of these sheets.
Yes.
Tell me where it is.
I mean, it's not like a barrier concrete wall. The idea is that you'd have a fence and you'd go and see through it. And I think that was one of staff's comments, was to get rid of the wood fence on the east property line so that the owners of the home would actually have kind of a view of the pond for whatever that's worth.
And the neighbors are okay with a fence versus a board on board or whatever fence? You'd rather have a board on board fence?
If you're going to speak, actually, we should probably hold that until we finish with the commissioners.
So if we can hold off.
Okay, eventually I would like to hear what the residents would like on this.
We'll do that after we're done.
Just a comment, you were planning on using GAF timberline shingles. I was just notified of a class action lawsuit that some of their timberline products were evidently defective or something in the past. Just make sure that whatever you do, that they have corrected that problem, please.
Sure.
I had a concern about, and I do have a concern about some pumps pumping into the village stormwaters.
They're not.
I heard that they were.
I'm sorry, say that again, Commissioner Steinle.
I heard during the testimony that the 8 individual house sump pumps were going to be discharged into the village stormwater system.
Well, maybe not.
And I would not want to do that.
I don't have anything shown. I stand corrected. I was looking at the sanitary lines. We don't have anything specified for the sump pumps. And if the village does not want them tied into it, we will comply with that. Typically, sump pumps would be tied in and downspouts would not. That would be whatever you did want.
Well, I mean, I do think that it is a little bit at your discretion, but I would recommend, I mean, we're kind of close to the river here, and, you know, there's a very good chance that the sump pumps will run a little bit. And if it's constantly discharging at the side of the building, that becomes a real annoyance for homeowners. So I might recommend that the sump discharge does get picked up in the storm sewer system and discharged into the basin.
Andrew, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our ordinances say that that's not allowed. Would they need a variation for that?
Mr. Chuck, do you know?
Excuse me, may I interject? The reason we don't show sump pumps on our drawing is because there's no basements. So we weren't proposing sump pumps.
Oh, that makes it really.
Yeah, and I should have known that. I apologize for not being up to speed on that.
So problem solved on that then?
That solves that one. I hear a lot about access easements and the fact that it's already there, it's already been established for many years. Does this new property owner need to create and/or modify in any way the existing access easement agreement, or is it just going to be continuing on as it is?
We've reviewed the access easement, so the answer to that would really be if there are new features that this petitioner would propose to add to it, then yes. If they were proposing changing the way that the maintenance is handled or changing some aspect of the easement agreement, they would need to modify it. As it's written, we felt satisfied that they could proceed to the application with the verbiage of that easement.
So with their current plans, I think I just heard you say that we're comfortable with the easement as it's currently designed.
Yes, we had previously, before they submitted the original application a few years ago, we read through the easement language, and we felt satisfied that they had the authority to apply for this type of development on it.
Okay. And I would like to go with the Hardy Board. I think it was agreed that that's what they'll do. And
Except for location, and I know I'll forget, but if you look at, E5A5, which is
34?
34, or I'm sorry, 35. So underneath the windows, is that hardy board?
Underneath the windows?
Yes.
No, where the hardy board is only where we have this hexagonal, turret, but that's it. Underneath the windows, we have a stone base.
Well, that doesn't,
And we have a-
I've got to tell you, that does not look like stone.
And we have a stone seal. I mean, if you can be specific and show me.
Okay, Andrew, if you can go to the next slide. Right, okay, so to the left of the door, you've got windows. That bottom section right there, what is that?
This will be hardy board. This is right now proposed hardy board.
Okay,
yeah, that would probably be better to be, continue the stone.
stone, yes. Anything close to the ground, we do not recommend hardy board.
No issue.
And then, Mr. Chairman, for
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted to get that one in there before I forgot.
Good point. For the conditions that Pam read, I do believe that condition 7 should still exist, the whatever no parking on Kraus Lane. There are only 3 fire hydrants throughout the entire length of the property, which would mean that you could probably legally find a lot of places to park. And I don't think that street is going to be wide enough to handle.
We will put signage not to park.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
If I may, Commissioner Stylen?
Yes, sir.
If I may, that whole side of the street is posted as a fire lane.
Excellent. That's even better. Although, according to your recommendations, parking in a fire lane is legal as long as the person is close by. Right? That is directly a statement from you and your chief, so I think we need to make it no parking, period. Would that be?
I understand the section or where the discussion you and I believe the chief had at one time, and it's a slightly subjective issue.
So if we put no parking signs.
But there are no parking signs, and historically, the vehicles are not there, or do not park there. Occasionally, you'll find somebody that's standing, or they're with the vehicle, or sitting in the vehicle to readily move it.
And in the case that I discussed with the chief, sit inside the adjacent building was also acceptable. So I don't want to belabor that. I think a no parking sign would be just as good as a fire lane. and maybe in this case a little bit better. The homeowners association, Pam, in your stuff, talked about snow, road, and landscaping costs in that homeowners association. I think we need to have a condition that restates that number 8, condition number 8 point. Condition 11 was irrigation, I think still needs to be addressed. And for condition number 12, the construction.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The construction of the fence, I think we've always said that just burying a wood fence post in the ground leads to degradation, and we should use the steel insert or
Yes.
what, I'm not sure exactly what we've called it in the past.
I think it's a.
Cedar, it was steel, cedar or wood wrapped cedar, is that what we called it?
Yeah,
Something.
it's, right. It's a steel post with a wrapping
Right.
that matches the fence.
I would like to propose that they do that, because that will add some longevity into the fence and hopefully keep the maintenance aspects of keeping that fence working a lot cheaper. Other than that, those are my only concerns, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I have a number of questions. We're talking, let's talk about the road. The road is going to be 30 feet. Is a normal, what is this normal size of a street that the village maintains?
The curb-to-curb dimension?
Curb to curb.
I believe it's in the same ballpark, 33. Curb, back of curb to back of curb?
Yeah, I think this dimension, although it's a little bit clear, and I probably should ask Bernie to clean that up a little bit, it appears that the 30 feet is face of curb to face of curb based on the detail that they have in the plans.
And our typical is 33 back to back?
Back to back, so we're talking about, 2 feet face to face difference from our typical. 2 feet less.
Okay. When you say back to back, back of the curb versus the face of the curb?
The back of the curb that would be next to the soil.
Okay. 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 So, okay, so it's, so on the drawing, it's face to face? Is that what you said? So you have to do back to back, so it's probably 2 feet. Okay. All right. So when Mr. Bono was talking about redoing this road, Kraus, and you talked about it, and I just need a correction here. Only redoing the road in front of the townhouses? Or are you going from the end of, like where the parking lot is for the commercial stuff that's along Milwaukee Avenue, the back of that, so from right here, Andrew, there, are you all the way to the cul-de-sac? Is
Yes.
that all being
Yes.
redone?
That's what I meant, across the 2 properties, not across the 2 buildings, but across
Across
the
the
2
two
parcels.
properties? Okay, I
Yes.
misunderstood that. Okay.
I may have misspoke.
No, I probably misheard it. So that is all going to be ripped up and redone, and everything's going to come up to code, everything's going to be, all the sewer's going to be in there. Okay.
And then we would have to maintain access to those 3 homes for emergency vehicles, for their convenience.
Right.
I mean, we certainly couldn't just dig it all out and have a 2-foot drop-off there. And
Right.
I mean, we would have to make provisions for those homeowners.
Okay. So, staying on the road, and I want to get this understood. The expectation, sir, is that the 3 you're going to ask the 3 homeowners to pony up money to maintain that road?
Well, I don't think so.
to maintain it?
I have to ask, right now, it's written that all 6 parties are responsible for maintenance of this road. I think it would be wisely to put an additional, really agreement, spreading the cost, because right now we will have additional people, 8 units, and there will be different cost.
So tell me who the six,
Well, we have the property where is the office right now, this number 1. Those 2 properties that are right now vacant, this is 3, and we have 3 owners to the east, so it's altogether 6.
okay, so, but the property along Milwaukee Avenue, they're supposed to maintain that property also?
The way the easement is written refers to the portion of the easement which is on the property owner's lot. So I believe what every person is currently responsible for is the part on their own property.
So that hasn't even been discussed yet as to how that's going to be done? Irrespective of the homeowners association, which, which will take care of that, that has not been discussed with the owners to the west and owners to the east?
Well, at this point, we didn't discuss because the owners to the, when I would talk to the owners to the east, well, basically, they were not very happy with this development, so I couldn't get to the point even to talk about this.
Okay, understood. All right. So some type of negotiations has to be done there, some mediation or something has to be done.
Yeah,
Because I, to Commissioner Dorban's point, I would feel uncomfortable approving something without those in place. And,
Right. I mean, we can do this, but there has to be some willingness on the...
understood. So it's not our job, Andrew, and I'm not certain how that can be mediated at some point in time.
I guess the question...
Mallory,
I know recommendations for mediation companies, I don't know.
I don't know,
Can
so,
I dovetail on, I'm sorry.
sure, no, go ahead.
If you're going to be doing that part of the road, it would be nice if the 3 homeowners back there wanted that part of their road done, if they could, be part of that reconstruction as well. I mean, and you're right, some kind of a negotiation, some way where there's talking to them so that maybe they can benefit by having that road done too.
I think they will benefit, and it's just, find the...
No, I don't mean
Find the
as far
language.
as the road being done, but I mean in front of their homes.
They're both retired, so I don't know.
Well, we can discuss that in a second, sir.
I'm just throwing that
No,
out,
yeah, exactly. Okay,
Thank you.
that's fine. And then we talked about, you have to give us we need a new landscape plan. We need a landscape plan, and we talked about there's no designation for irrigation. There seems to be some differences on the trees and the shrubs that need to be finalized.
That's
okay?
correct.
And the privacy fence, the fence that you're putting around your property, we heard that, I think we're going to remove the one on the east. The one to the north, what I would like to, and this piggybacks, just to go into more detail with what Commissioner Stylen said, is I would like you to talk to these homeowners in back here. Determine the width in between those fences and talk to them about possibly removing their fence and having one fence there, okay?
Well, I would be more than happy. I mean, we are right now in the preliminary stage. I mean...
Right, no, because it doesn't make sense to have 2 fences that
You're
the
right.
property in that small swatch of land cannot be maintained.
Correct.
Okay, great. So we need that. We heard we needed a new photometric plan because we don't have the correct lights, don't match the photometrics. And then talking about the road again, and one of the folks that came up and spoke for the property to the west, the commercial property there, seem to indicate that access was not a given to your property with the ownership there. And I think you indicated that you had not found anything that would make that.
No, I went through the documentation, I spoke to Andrew, we went through this, and we couldn't find anything that will support the lawyer's, or attorney's statement. We have a egress, we had, this easement is the reason, because the easement is to give the egress and ingress for all those properties. I mean, those people on the east side, they have to get somewhere, you know, they have to go through both our properties and the properties, you know, where's the office, so.
Could I
That's what it's
piggyback on
stated.
that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Are easements like that, are they typically recorded with the county or something like that? I mean,
Yes.
the gentleman says, yeah, there is one, he said he doesn't think, so I guess we need to know, is there actually one? Because that would be a concern of mine too.
Yes, we have a copy of the easement.
And is there any stipulation on that at all?
I have not read it this week. I did read it originally for the previous.
I thought it was weekly reading on your part.
Yeah, we were satisfied a couple of years ago when this petition came in front of us. We did review it with our attorneys. We were satisfied that the access that was shown allowed them to proceed to the application that they were submitting.
Can we have that review done again?
We sure can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Hold on one second. Oh, thank
It's
you.
it's in this note as well. Right now, I've got on the list, landscape
I saw you
plan
raise your
corrections,
finger, Mr.
photometric plan, summary of road easement language.
And to that point, we heard about traffic in and out of there. Now, we're going to be adding another 16 cars possibly to that, if not more, depending upon who lives there. Does that warrant any type of traffic study in and out of there?
The staff did not require one. The Plan Commission could require one. You're looking at a total of 8 homes. Homes have a typical trip generation formula that you can assign trips to this road based on that.
Probably 16, probably wouldn't. Okay, yeah, I was just curious. Probably doesn't warrant it, though. I'm sure they're, like any place else on Milwaukee Avenue, it's hard to get in and out of. Commissioner Stylin, you wanted to make a comment?
I just have a concern and a comment, right? The existing Kraus Lane, is that street built to Village of Wheeling standards?
No.
Is the new proposed Kraus Lane street built to Village of Wheeling standards?
The physical construction would be built to standard.
Okay. My presumption is that I heard the existing street is 16 feet or so, and the new street is going to be 30, so possibly double the size of the existing street. My guess is that the maintenance costs of a village design street are probably a little bit more expensive than the maintenance costs of whatever Kraus Lane designed street is. And if you're going to put an additional financial burden on the property owners to the east, I guess I would have a big concern, and I would like somebody to show that doesn't conflict with the rezoning question number 5, which says, how will the proposed rezoning be compatible with and not unduly depreciate the use and value of surrounding property? If they're now going to be constrained with, I don't know, a homeowners association cost that is a lot more than what they're doing today, my guess is that would depreciate their the value of their property. Maybe not, but I would like somebody to talk about in the future that specific point.
Are you suggesting under the scenario that if a new agreement were to be made that requires the shared maintenance of the rest of the road?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if they become now a part of the homeowners association to pay for a road that, yes, they use, but didn't have any choice in not opting out.
May I just make a comment or?
I have one more thing.
Okay, go ahead.
But this is good dialogue, so the 6 spots, I guess the guest parking, do any of those have to be handicapped?
Do any of them have to be what?
Handicap
Oh.
parking?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, just curious. Okay. All right. Okay. Before, Commissioner Dorban, before we go on to your next question, I'm going to ask the folks that spoke before, if you would like to, if you have a comment about what was discussed now with the petitioner, additional petitioner, and the commission, please come up and, sure. That's Ms. Barnes.
I am still Susan Barnes, and I still promise to tell the
I know,
truth.
it's fine with me.
So you only plan on having 6 parking spots for 8 additional houses? No one ever has anyone over for Christmas, Thanksgiving, or any other holiday, whatever? That seems not enough. I have 5 siblings. It would not be enough. Issue 1, number 2, 30-foot wide street. If you look up here, sometimes it is challenging to get onto Kraus Lane. And what I talk about is the Parkway, which is owned by the village. And see that little nub that sticks out there? That is, anyway, it's troublesome there, and I'm pretty sure that's not 30 feet. So if we're going to measure stuff, we should measure that too. And then I'm a little confused about the pond, which is now going to be a cement pond, and you're going to put a fence around it, and then, but you said you're going to put the snow in there. How are you going to get the snow in the fenced pond? Through the slats in the fence?
There's an opening.
I believe what he had said was that there's a, it's grass bottomed, and they have a gap roughly here.
For small children to fall into?
At the northwest corner of this. Yes, I think that you had, I'll put words in your mouth, but you had said that there's this area slopes down gradually? Is that what you?
We can, if you can ask your questions, and then we can have the petitioner come back up.
Okay, so first I heard it was going to all be fenced so small children fall into it, and then I heard it was going to, that's where the snow was going, and now so I'm confused. So if you could just address that, and that was all, I think that's all I had to say.
Great, thank you. Sir?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I just get an answer to my question, if they would prefer just a wrought iron fence or some kind of board-on-board cedar fence along the east property line while they're talking?
Sure.
The 2 houses down there, both people are elderly. They're on Social Security, so the money is going to be a big factor. And I noticed that cul-de-sac. Now, is that part of the road that's in front of the 3 houses?
The existing pavement in front of the 3 houses is east of this line.
Okay.
So they would have to,
So
at
we'll
this
be
point, they
seeing,
would
so
have to
as
join.
cars are turning around, we're going to see them flashing through our house all the time, going through the cul-de-sac. And then there's a couple other.
Actually, I pulled into your driveway the other day, so you probably saw me. So.
Me too.
And the water and sewer, is that crossing the road? Is that going right under the road? What happens if it breaks?
You want to know where the sewers are? Okay. we can
Even
ask
the
that.
water, if one of those were to break, does that close the whole road down so nobody has access in or out?
They were located so that there would be, if there was a break, I think that was one of the conditions from the last review, was that it was not in a spot where you could still get by. So I think this plan had them move it so that there would be access to do repairs, but still drive past it. Mr. Tack, is that correct from this last round?
Yeah, that is my understanding, Andrew.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Mr. Friedman?
So just to respond to some of the issues that have come up, the questions that have come up with this easement issue, it's, anybody can look at me and say, he's saying there isn't an issue. He's saying there isn't access, but you might say it doesn't make it so. And the architect says there is access. And I would say just because he says there's access doesn't make it so. Ultimately, it's a legal issue. Ultimately, a court needs to decide whether there's adequate ingress and egress access. I've read the document. The document it predates my involvement in this. It's murky at best. But just to give you some, so ultimately somebody's going to need to decide. And clearly we have conflicting views of it. Just to give you some context, when that document was originally made, it contemplated single-family homes. It contemplated, to the extent there is ingress and egress for residences, they're single-family homes. It didn't contemplate absolute ingress and egress if the zoning changes, which is what's happening now. So if somebody came along and proposed building more single-family homes, that might be a different issue. But just because there's some ingress and egress doesn't mean there's absolute ingress and egress for any purpose, for any use, for anything. So that's just some context of it, but I've read it. It's unclear at best, and someone's going to need to make a decision. I mean, I'd hate for, just stepping back, if this thing gets built and then it turns out that there isn't access, that's a big problem. Now's the time to decide that. I'd be happy to sit down at some point with the village attorneys to discuss the document or with their attorneys to discuss it. But it's certainly, I can say that it certainly doesn't clearly provide ingress and egress for townhomes. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Winograd, sir, would you, I was going to try Winogradsky?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Winogradsky, could you describe, Ms. Barnes was talking about the fence around the opening and snow removal. So can you describe what was going to happen there?
I think Bernie can better describe because he designed this and we discussed this issue with the snow.
I'd be happy to. The detention pond was designed to have multiple uses, primarily a stormwater holding tank. But we also wanted it to be a dry bottom pond so that it could be used as a recreational area when there's no water in the pond. To access that, to get the volumes, we had to put retaining walls around it so we could get the volume in the footprint that we needed. So the sides of the pond have to come straight down to get our volume. And then we wanted a grass bottom so that it could be used as kind of a park or, we don't know what it's going to be used, but I mean, it's pretty typical in residential subdivisions. Sometimes you have walking trails through there, or, not generally swing sets. You don't want to have an attractive nuisance, but an open grassy field is common. And then it can be used as a recreational area. So that was the idea. It's a grassy area. And we wanted, because of the retaining walls, we don't want people to just tumble off the walls or landscapers to inadvertently step off the walls. So they're protected on the sides so no one falls off. The primary access was just east of those 6 parking spaces. That area was sloped, so you had a nice grassy slope to walk down into the bottom of the hill. And we also thought that that would be a third primary usage, which would be a snow storage area. Now, you'd have to kind of get the snow in there and you'd have to push it in, but the idea is that is a typical use for detention ponds in the winter, is you stack the snow up there. I've seen it sometimes pile 14, 15 feet high with front end loaders, but I'm saying, not saying they'd have to get a front end loader to plow this, but it's not unusual to have the snow in that area. And we may want to look at, if the village feels that that opening is too small, maybe we have to tweak it a little bit and make the opening a little wider so they could get more area in there. But just the idea, we didn't want to have too much of a sloped area because we needed the volume. We were more concerned about the volume of the pond. Okay?
Thank you.
Wood fence at the end.
Right. The one question Commissioner Silent brought up was the fence that would face the three homes. Right now, it would, right now, what is proposed, it would match the rest of the property. And we're proposing to remove that. Is that, from a homeowner's perspective, is that, just thinking fence now, not the whole property, fence, is that more agreeable than having the fence there?
You're going to take out a live pond, and it's going to be gone. And you're going to put up concrete, and you're going to have water in there.
I think I would rather have a wood fence so we wouldn't have to see the condos.
What does it matter?
Okay, all right,
Cheryl Benny
Fine.
put in and our privacy was gone, our backyard.
okay, then we'll stay with the wood fence. Okay, that's fine. Great. So, I think, Mr. Winogradsky, you have notes as to what is needed for, we're going to continue this, and there were a number of things that were mentioned tonight. Andrew, I have some notes.
I got some more, Jim.
We have, so right now what I have is a note that just says, tabled 4, landscape plan corrections, photometric plan, summary of road easement language, and stone at the base of the side elevations. The question, the big question there, I think from that would be the summary of the road easement language. But that's what I currently have written on here.
Commissioner Doran.
I just would like to make a suggestion.
Microphone? Microphone.
I would just like to make a suggestion that if you could possibly work with the homeowners that are there now, I would like to see some kind of camaraderie there. I think that,
I'm very open.
you know,
I think we personally want to see houses there instead of cramming all of these houses, townhomes in there and all that traffic.
This,
based on the situation the way it is now, you know, I just would like to see you work together to see if you could come to some kind of an agreement. I just, you know, I don't want to see these folks moving in here and having you already be angry with them before they ever move in, you know. I mean, that's, you know, just trying to be a little peacemaker here, that's all.
We appreciate that, we really do. But,
right. If we could continue on to what the petitioner needs for the next.
Right, I just want to ask one question when we're all done, that's all.
Is there anything?
Yeah, I'd like to ask. The white brick that you showed, that's the landscaping wall brick, is that correct?
No, that's.
Which one is the landscaping wall brick?
The landscape wall brick is not part of.
Is not part of.
Concrete.
Not part
Oh,
of-
I'm sorry.
That's part of the buildings. That's the buildings.
Okay, we didn't talk at all about the carriage walk. Are we still gonna do that, or, I mean, I guess I'm okay with it, although, you know, snow removal, you're probably not gonna have it, so, I mean, did we need to talk about that, or we're just gonna go with on the plan?
The suggestion from the staff report, from the planning and zoning side of this was that the sidewalk here probably didn't make as much sense as having the sidewalk end here with the ramp, and then you'd get these spaces here instead of being right up against the wall and the fence. There would be a little separation so that the light pole, which is shown
Yeah, I agree.
inside the
Yeah.
detention area,
Yes.
is now outside the detention area.
Okay, that's good. And we talked about, you know, the lighting and the photometric plan. Are you planning on putting any lights on the garage or anything like that, or any entranceways or anything like that? Is there going to be any decorative lighting?
Oh, yeah, that's the standard lighting that we have in front of the building and in front of the garage.
I'm not sure if I saw that on any of the elevations.
Well, we are not in this stage of detailing, but I think that's...
I think at some point we kind of need, I would think we need to see that. I don't know. And address numbers on the building, is that going to be standard somewhere in the front on the elevation?
Correct.
All right, I have nothing else. Thank you.
So continuing on, is there anything else that the petitioner needs to prepare for our next meeting? Which is going to be February, is that the next meeting, February 12th? Would be the next available meeting?
Yes.
For this, right?
That's correct. So I've got this note here then, tabled for landscape plan corrections, photometric plan, summary of road easement language, which is a multi-part question relating to maintenance, et cetera, and stone at the base of the side elevations.
Mr. Stylen, you had a...
Well, I just have a concern. I've heard a number of times this evening that the petitioner has stated that he really hasn't done a detailed design, and this is just preliminary designs of the appearance of the buildings and whatever. It's my understanding, once we approve PC 15-2, that the petitioner will never come back before us for building design, appearance, et cetera. Am I missing something, or?
No, that's correct. If you were to make a recommendation on PC 15-2 and the village board were to approve it, then that would not come back in front of you again.
So I'm just a little worried that the petitioner is not taking this as seriously as I would, and maybe your statements are incorrect, but I would like to see the final plans of the appearance of the building, how it is going to be as you're going to develop it, because that's what you'll be held accountable to build. And there will be no deviation. At least that's my interpretation of site plan and appearance approval.
This would be really very hardship for us to do this such as detailing, even didn't know if we get approved or not. So once we get to the point that, yeah, we have a green light, then we can, of course.
I think the distinction that the commission is looking for is not construction drawings for the homes. I think the detail, cleaning up the details on the landscape, that's a requirement of this review. Cleaning up the details in the photometric are a requirement. That is a different issue than what your engineer stated. What your engineer stated is actually fairly typical for this stage, to have that level of detail, not to final construction on the engineering either. So, but the landscape plan as a minimum requirement for this does need to be addressed.
No objections. That's
right.
The photometric plan needs to be accurate.
Commissioner Stein, did you have any, when you said that, was there something specific?
No, it's just a couple of the last questions that were asked were stated as we really haven't decided, and it's time to decide.
Well, Commissioner Powers brought up lighting on the building. You would have thought, you would think that that would be there.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's what I
A
mean.
fixture cut sheet for that. That does not necessarily need to be reflected on the photometrics
Sure.
for the roadway, but
Okay.
a fixture cut sheet.
So we have a motion to table?
It would be a table on 15-2. The other items would be continuations.
We have to do them separately?
Yes.
Okay, so table for 15-2?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Powers, second by Commissioner Stylen. Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the continuation on 2015 1A, 1B, and 1C. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dorban, second by Commissioner Zangara. All those in favor?
Aye.
You, February 12th.
I did have one more question then.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner
That's
Dorban.
okay. Can you tell me what the price point on these units would be? Pardon me? 300. Is that for the end units or middle units? I couldn't hear you. Okay.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Hey, John. 1416, continued from January 8th, public hearing, Village of Willingham, amendments to Title 19 zoning. Mr. Jennings.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning of this. All right, when we last met and discussed this, there were a couple of suggestions from the commission for some modifications. And the only remaining piece of this was to put the text back into the formatted document, which we have now done. The motion is the same motion. If this is.
Do we have a printout of this?
We do. Hang on. Excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, this is good.
My memory isn't that good.
Look at how many trees we've saved
Oh,
since we've gone to iPad.
Thank you.
A half a tree tonight will be fine.
It's an ash tree.
Wow. Ash tree. Ash tree. Wow, what a wow, holy smoke.
Yeah, this looks great.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, so there were a couple of corrections that were, what I'd like to do is just go through this page by page. Sure.
Sure.
The contents have not changed. This is the same. The general regulations, we did make a couple of modifications in this for the last hearing. For this one, I don't believe there's anything new other than formatting it. We have added graphics to illustrate both what is meant by base, body, and cap, as well as an illustration showing how the articulation of the facade is achieved by putting pieces of the building on a different plane. We have some examples of finished buildings that that include some of the design features that are described in this section of the text. Stop me at any point if you have any questions. Again, not much has changed here. We have just added the illustrations and captions that go along with the text. This particular page, I think, was already done the last time we showed you this. We found a photograph of a roof screen.
Nice. It's a nice roof. Nice roof.
Thought you guys would like that.
Are those garage doors that are included in the sizing?
This actually, those are the sliding doors, so you can access the mechanicals in this case.
That's neat.
This one might be the Weston. They have that. They have that kind of system up there. Actually, you know what? They don't have rocks, I don't think. So it's probably not the Weston. The material section. Again, most of this is unchanged. There is this note number 3 here was one of the things that we added after the last discussion. Features such as windows, doors, trim, gutters, and downspouts should be included in the plans and should be consistent with the colors and materials on the structure. This was a note that appears in a different form later on under colors that the commission had requested that we add it to another location as well. This last number 6 was one of the items that we added during the last hearing, so that's not new. The permitted materials, we've added the requested note in order of preference. Tried to arrange this in a way that you could find the materials rapidly, just to try to lay out the text so that you can read it clearly. no change to the text, just, change to the layout. This is a drawing, going on to the next page here, the page 8, methods of measuring building materials. We were trying to find a way to illustrate what is considered a primary material, what's considered an accent material. So we just did a simple drawing here. Under this requirements, it's also possible for a individual unit to have materials that would not meet the standards by itself, but if it's part of the whole building, it's considered to be acceptable if it can meet the total standard. So there was we added the unit lines to this to help illustrate that. And that's what the caption says as well. There's also a note in here that the windows count with the material that they are located in. So if it's a standard window, standard door, it goes with the material that it's inside of. We have added some good and some examples of buildings that have features that we like to encourage, as well as a few examples, unfortunately, of things that we would like to discourage. We've tried in almost I think we've been fairly successful in this actually, not using anything that's actually located in Wheeling. We may have one here or there, but most of these are from the Chicago area.
Cool. Very nice.
Let's see.
Just a comment about this particular drawing. You say that something like this should not be allowed?
Well, the text here, the idea of it was that there were multiple colors of brick being used. If you see I don't know if it's hard to see here, but there are other design features on this building. There are stone lines that run across it that would be apparent if the light colored brick weren't there. So yes, that was the idea, was that it was.
I guess my only comment is, if this particular building were all dark red brick, it would, to me, would look ugly without the other adjustments that could be made. That's my only comment. I don't know if that picture really depicts what, at least that's my particular view.
I think it's actually. And see, I would think this exact opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I would think the exact opposite.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, no.
The other side, I guess, the other side of the building, you can see both sides of this building from public streets. And the other side of this building has a very detailed facade. There's multiple, this dark brick is prevalent on it. There are recesses on the other side of the building. This is sort of the back side, but it's still visible. The variation, the 4 different types of brick on the building are not as apparent on the other side. When you strip away the balconies and the recesses and everything, it stands out a little bit more on this side. I think that is at least what I was trying to show here.
Yeah, I think it would look nicer if you put in some of the other treatments, if you will. But
We can add to it going forward. I really like this one.
The townhomes and row homes, we wanted to make sure that we did an adequate job of illustrating some of the desirable features on both the front and the rear. The top drawing is an illustration of how we would calculate, in the case of a townhome, the use of materials. So this particular home that we're calculating out, the accent area is fairly small. By the rules of this section, the base, provided that it is stone, gets counted with the primary material. So this would be a 93% brick stone with a small accent area on it, in this particular one. But the purpose of the illustration was to show how we calculate it out. The lower pictures, sort of the same type of development, same density of townhomes. One has an example where the garages are arranged so that you can get doors, a landscape area, air conditioners, and the garbage corrals back there. The one on the right, although we didn't put the front, you can sort of see the side of it. These are brick, textured brick row homes with, I believe this one was a vinyl siding rear with no space in the rear to break up the pavement. Just example here to go with the multifamily, showing a building that has both articulation of the facade, traditional base body and cap design. It has emphasis on the entry features as well as emphasis on the corner by switching to a stone around the corner. We took the trash enclosure section that was written originally, I think, for commercial, and kind of copied and pasted it into the industrial and the and multifamily, just so that it would be clear.
Good.
A couple of examples of commercial commercial development, commercial character. I'm on to page 12 if you're flipping through it. The service area and trash enclosures. The top picture has both a service entrance, actually all three things, utilities, a service entrance, and trash enclosure, with just some notes highlighting from the design guidelines what would be desirable in terms of the service side of a building. The lower one is a illustration of a photograph of a shared garbage where multiple units have access to it.
Andrew?
Yes.
In this particular A section, do you think we should say something about allocating space for signage or something like that, or do you think that would be covered under the normal?
Where are you looking?
On page 12?
Yeah, 12A.
Contextual
design. Should we say something in there about, area for signage or?
Sure, you could add a number. You could add a 4 to that because the signage area should be part of the original design consideration.
Something like that. I just think we've kind of talked about that when we've done some previous center designs. Might be a good place to stick something like that. But if you're looking to finalize this tonight, I can understand we could probably, tweak it in the future if it was necessary.
No, we can, that's certainly something. The board ultimately is going to see this, so we can add that between now and then.
Okay.
We can add it and approve it tonight with just that condition.
Okay, I'm just typing that in real quick. I figured we were safe on one of ours. Okay. Industrial buildings, I think this is essentially unchanged. We did add a photograph to try to illustrate the use of a higher level of design. The public end of the building. That design kind of fades. If you can see on the right side of the photograph, the attention to detail is highest at the front. That doesn't mean that it disappears completely at the back, but once the windows disappear, you have that repeating color variation in the building to sort of break up the facade. I don't know how well it shows up. On the other screen, there are other lines in this precast that do break up the large expanses of concrete as well. It's a little bit difficult to see. I don't know if you can see it on the paper version.
Yeah, I could see it.
If you
But at least you could give them an address here that tells them conveniently where to go.
And this is it. This is the last page. Just sort of giving some guidance as to how mixed-use buildings would be handled. The airport, as we discussed at the last meeting, the main difference between the airport buildings and the other buildings is the allowance for the steel construction, provided that there's a 7-foot base. And then special purpose buildings, we found an example of a public restroom, just to represent all the special purpose buildings out there. So I have one condition so far, to add a reference to consideration for sign area in our sign display area in the design of commercial buildings.
Yeah. I think that'd be fine.
And as I had mentioned before, the motion is the same motion that we had previously. We would update it to reference the January 22nd, but the sections of the code which we had previously compiled that would be stricken and it would reference Appendix D, that is unchanged. So that particular document, I believe, was dated January 8th, and we do have that still as part of this motion.
Right. So I hear a motion.
I actually have one question. One quick
Sure.
one? Quick one. Back to page 6 on the new construction versus renovation and additions. And I'm just going to throw this out there. Where we have additions and renovations on existing buildings may be allowed to continue, would it be wise to put a percentage on that? Because sometimes an addition can be a lot bigger than the original building. And I'm just wondering if we're telling someone that you have a building and they're going to increase it by 70%, they could still use the same materials? Just an FYI.
Could you say that again? Oh.
Where it says additions and renovations, I'm trying to think of like additions and renovations.
Which number?
Number 6, number 6. New buildings must comply with the regulations of the design guidelines. But I'm saying if additions exceed, say, 50% of the original building, should they go to the design guidelines, or can they still use the same material that's there?
Would they even be able to get the same material possibly, depending on the age of the building? I don't know. Then they would have to do something, right? Possibly?
Yeah, I think there's right now in the rest of in the main body of the zoning code, we have we do have a threshold for what's considered major and minor review for an addition. I think we used, I want to say something like, for industrial buildings, I may have been different, but we used a percentage of the building, or I think on commercial, maybe 1,000 square foot. Industrial may have had something different, but we could come up with something that says for, additions in excess of,
Or maybe you just threw in for minor building, and then that would leave sufficient wiggle room to reference other areas of the code.
Or what if you, for number 6, started out new construction and additions versus renovations? And then where it says additions and renovations, always make additions part of a design guideline, having to go through a design guideline.
Well, I think all of these go through the appearance review. The question is, when they go through it, what's the standard? Do you have some flexibility to allow say, for example, they did an addition to a building that used, originally had a vinyl siding on it, and or an aluminum siding, you're reducing that. Do you have some ability to let them use that, or is it just case by case discretion? Where do you want to make that distinction? I mean, they're all going to be reviewed. The minor and major additions both get reviewed. It's just a matter of when they're being reviewed, how strict to be.
So what were you suggesting, Andrew?
Well, we could use the language from major and minor just to figure out, we've used that threshold.
Yeah, okay. Would you be all right with that, Paul?
Yes.
All right, do that, yep. Okay. So back to having a motion.
So move to approve, Mr.
Second.
Chairman, with the conditions.
With the conditions.
I will read them in 1 second once they're written. Okay. The conditions currently, again, noting the dates of the documents in the motion. Then condition number 1, section 5A, we would add a reference to consideration for sign display area in the design of commercial buildings. And number 2, condition number 2 would be section 2, subsection A6. Add a reference to the major or minor review threshold to allow additions with otherwise restricted materials.
Great. We have a motion by Commissioner Stylin, second by Commissioner Dorban. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban,
Yes?
Commissioner Stylin votes yes. Paul,
Yes.
Chairman Rufato.
Yes. Motion to close.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Are you going to approve your minutes?
No,
Just close the docket.
Close the docket.
Oh, close the docket.
Second.
You were turning the meeting.
I'm getting close to it, but
Can I just make a comment? This is really looks really nice. Very impressive.
yes.
And I think the pictures are great.
Ton of work, state of art. You guys should be
Really
proud of
nice.
yourselves.
Very nice.
And I would have liked to add a condition that you guys need a raise for
Yeah.
doing this.
When does this go before the board?
Probably February 2nd.
All right.
I'll talk to.
And this gets presented this way to them?
We will probably not put it on paper.
No, it'll be in their packet.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It'll look, this document will be
Right, okay.
attached to it
All right, excellent. Great, thank you.
with the changes that you.
I would concur. All right. I didn't say motion to adjourn, I just said motion to
I know.
close, right?
Yes, you did. You
Okay.
said close.
We're getting there.
All right,
I seconded, but I don't remember who.
okay, cool, thank you. All right. Approval of minutes for January 8th, 2015, which we got separately.
So moved.
All those in favor?
I'll
We need
second.
second.
I'll second.
See, you screwed me up. We have a
Aye.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Other business, Mr. Jennings?
I have no other business. Thank you.
Yes, you do.
I do?
Email.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, you
Yes, I sent a request, a reminder to, that we're going to be using your village emails for our email communication. We have IT staff available. If you have any questions, you can certainly contact them. They're here tonight if you want to stop by after the meeting.
A question, Andrew, about that. Is that for just plan commission business? How about some of the other stuff that Brooke sends out about future agendas or what are those?
For public hearing?
Public hearing
I would
notices
assume
and
it's the
stuff.
same, that's plan commission related, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll probably be switching over to the village email.
Well, could you get clarification on that?
Sure, I mean, we still have your emails. If there are things that are clearly,
You know, like ribbon cutting ceremonies and stuff
for that
like
kind of stuff, we can, I'll talk to, that's actually not always done out of our office.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's not done.
I'll have to ask. But for the most part, assume, unless we can hear otherwise, assume that it'll be the village addresses.
Okay, cool. Commissioner Powers?
Oh, just outstanding job on Title 19. It's awesome. I have nothing else.
Yep. Commissioner Dorbin?
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Stylin?
Andrew, and Brooke, you know, I just want to say 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we tried to submit an RFP to get this done, and if I remember correctly, nobody responded or?
That was the landscape, it was a similar project, but it was the landscape. But yes, we talked about doing this professionally when we first started as well.
And, you know, I think it has really turned out to be excellent. You guys did a very, very professional job.
Thank you.
Yep,
And,
you did.
you know, if there's anything I can do to help you get rewarded, I will surely try to do it because it is an outstanding job. This will set a standard that maybe you don't want to set for the future because it is great.
Landscaping could be next.
So thank you again.
Commissioner Zangara?
I just want to congratulate our planning commissioner, Joe Vito, for moving up to the board. Wish him the best of luck.
Yep, very good, yes. I have a couple of things, speaking, piggybacking on that, we're down to 6 commissioners, and I'm not certain when we're going to replace him. So it's very important that you inform myself and Andrew and Brooke as far in advance as possible. If you're not going to be here because of public hearings, we have to make sure that we have a quorum. For instance, I told Andrew today I'm not going to be here on February 12th or March 12th. So if you know far enough advance so they can plan around that if we might, I think we should be okay because a quorum is 4, correct?
That's correct.
Right. But you never know. So just keep that in mind as you're going through and planning things. In addition, speaking of openings, Wingstop is Friday at 11:30. They're having a grand opening. So that's 11:30 tomorrow. Oh, that's tomorrow. Jeez. Wow. So, holy smoke. Okay. And I'm going to echo what everybody else said, Andrew and Brooke. Great job on this. Great job. And I'm going to send a note to John and everybody saying that too. So, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Wait, you didn't ask me if I had anything.
Do you have anything?
No.